Hello and welcome to the Federal. We have with us Mr. Praveen Chakravarty, Chairman, Professional Congress and Data Analytics. Sir, my first question to you is, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is planning for a consecutive third term in office. What kind of an interim budget are you expecting from the union government?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Well, every sitting prime minister and every sitting government will plan for another term. But my hope is that the budget does not get politicized in lieu of the election. I think our economy today is at a stage where we can't afford a politicization of the budget. And I say this because of how the year has been in terms of what we had budgeted for and how the year is panned out. So while I agree that there may be temptations for schemes, there may be temptations for other populist welfare measures, there are other competing forces at play. The forces at play are about private investment, are about inflation, are about joblessness, and about our fiscal situation. So keeping these in mind, I hope that the budget will not get politicized, but I'm not so sure the Finance Minister, Nirmala Sitharaman, is going to keep my hopes alive.
So there is a speculation that the union government may provide more money in the hands of farmers with its PM Kisan Samman Nidhi Yojana. So there is a clear focus on improving the rural economy. My question to you is, why is it so difficult for Congress to regain the lost ground in rural areas?
I'm not so sure that it is factually correct that the Congress is not strong in the rural areas. If anything, I would argue that the Congress is actually much stronger in rural areas than in urban areas. It's more in the urban areas and in the Hindi states that the BJP seems to trump the Congress much more. As far as rural farmer scheme or any of these other schemes are concerned, these are not new. I mean, the first time you do it, the second time you do it, I think there's some novelty factor to it. By now, I'm not so sure people of India, especially in rural areas, such as farmers, are going to get wowed anymore by any announcements of a scheme. The fact of the matter is, even the scheme that you mentioned, the Kisan Sanidhi scheme, there are lots of issues about landed farmers versus landless farmers. Who gets this insurance? Who's not getting the insurance? Who's being left out? There is a lot of angst. Okay, and Telangana was a very clear example where the Prime Minister himself personally announced that he was going to implement the scheme in Telangana if they get elected. And from what I know, I think they got trounced.
True. So if we talk about rural and urban poor, India witnessed its biggest migration after partition during the COVID outbreak. Now the government is likely to target this section of people through its populist programs. Why has the Congress party not been able to motivate this section to vote for it?
See, the migrant, if you're talking specifically about the migrants and the migrant population, first and foremost, these are people that are in the informal labor force. Okay, they're not farmers. They're not even rural workforce. They are migrating from rural to urban areas to be in part of the informal labor force. I think that is a huge and growing section of our society today. We can see a lot of them going into what's called gig work, the gig economy, right? From what I know in terms of data and statistics, I think there are about 80 lakh gig workers. And this is the fastest growing, which is far more than the formal workforce. Now, that is not a very well understood section. The whole gig economy is something that is not very well understood, I would say, both by the BJP and the Congress, to be fair. Yes, you're right in the sense that we have probably not been able to convince the gig workers or these migrant laborers of what we can do for them. As a member of the manifesto committee of the Congress party for 2024 elections, I can tell you, without divulging too many details, that this is a big area of focus for us in the manifesto.
So if you look at the development model of BJP before the post, there is a Ram temple, large-scale populist schemes, and big-ticket infrastructure projects like the coastal road project in Mumbai or the construction of airports and highways. What is the alternate economic model that the Congress is planning to showcase to the people before the national polls?
See, I don't know if it should be alternate economic model, or I think let's understand infrastructure development as an economic activity. Okay, infrastructure development does not happen over 3 years or 4 years or 5 years. It happens over multiple successive governments. So the Mumbai project that you are referring to, from what I know, that actually started initially in the Congress government in Maharashtra. Subsequent governments have moved this forward. So just because it happens to be opened when someone is prime minister does not mean that the project started at that time or all the development happened only during that time. That is the nature of infrastructure development. Okay, and that is important. So very clearly shows that the Congress party also had a very big hand and a role to play in that particular Mumbai project or other infrastructure projects in the country. The larger question to ask is the capital expenditure. If you were to think, since we're talking about the budget has, if out of every 100 rupees, you can spend a government can spend X amount on, say, welfare schemes that go directly to people, X amount on capital expenditure, which is projects, infrastructure projects, which mainly is money for projects that go to corporates, and then there may be a trickle-down effect, right? And then X percentage on defense and other things, right? If you look at the just balance between welfare and capital expenditure, yes, the Congress government believed and continues to believe in spending more money on welfare versus capital expenditure. And the Modi government has done the exact opposite. It's not 0 or 1. It's not like, okay, we will spend nothing on capital expenditure and the Modi government will spend all on capital expenditure. It's not that. What is the ratio between the two? And that is because we believe infrastructure projects, while are necessary and important, they do not trickle down to people anymore. The benefits of that do not trickle down to people anymore. If you put up a manufacturing plant, it does not generate jobs. We can go on and on about semiconductor manufacturing, but it does not generate jobs. And that does not benefit people. So the Congress party believes more, and this is where there's a very key difference in economic philosophy. The Congress party believes more in direct welfare for people rather than trickle down. The BJP believes more in trickle down. Having said all this, I think capital expenditure is very important for an economy, and there is no government or no political party should ignore or turn away from capital expenditure.
So during the last election, former Congress President Rahul Gandhi promised minimum income guarantee scheme or the Nyaya scheme, which provided 72,000 rupees to 50 million people. Can we expect similar announcements this time, or which are the sectors that the Congress would focus on?
Yes, and I was personally very closely involved in the drafting of the Nyaya scheme in 2019 that you're referring to. I'm also a member of the manifesto committee for the 2024 elections. The idea of Nyaya, so that in 2019, it was positioned as a scheme, a welfare scheme. For 2024, we have expanded it to position it as an idea, as a philosophical idea, which is why, as we speak right now, Mr. Rahul Gandhi has undertaken a yatra from the east of India called the Bharat Jodo Nyaya Yatra. And this idea is one of justice, which is both economic justice and social justice. So we expand Nyaya to not just economic justice, which includes which will include schemes such as the one that we designed in 2019. We also are talking about a reformed social justice, which is why there is a lot of emphasis on caste census, things like caste census, which I think is important, which will be playing a big role in the manifesto. So to answer your question, yes, there will be a much more expanded version of Nyaya.
So the Congress party is known for its guarantees. We have witnessed Congress give debt relief of 60,000 crores to farmers, food security, MGNREGA. But now BJP is focusing on Modi ki guarantee. Is the Congress party losing its welfare pitch before the national polls?
No, I think we can have the battle of guarantees if we want, but the idea of a guarantee, which is to say that there's a certain welfare scheme that we've come up with, and it's just, I think what you have to contrast this is not Modi's guarantee versus Congress's guarantee. You have to contrast this with Modi's Jumla versus Congress's guarantee. Why did we even have to come up with the word guarantee? Because there was a Jumla. If there was no Jumla, if everybody just said what they truly believed in, then we would not have had to use the word guarantee. So I think it is in that context, because there were so many promises that were made, and I think everyone knows that almost none of those promises have been fulfilled. Having said all this, I personally, and this is my personal view, I am not in favor of competitive guarantees. I'm not in favor of competitive and populist measures as electoral promises. I do believe that any scheme or anything that any party announces, which is big for an election, will have to necessarily be accompanied by the party informing voters how they would get the money for it from. Where would they get the money for it from? And that is the only way where we can ensure that there is no competitive guarantee, electioneering and sloganeering.
So my last question to you is, while the BJP is focusing on its Hindutva pitch and make identity an issue, there is an opportunity for Congress to bring back socio-economic issues like price rise, unemployment. Why has the Congress party not been able to make this issue part of the national narrative?
I get this question a lot, and this is where I kind of completely reject it. And that is because it is completely wrong to say that the Congress party has not talked about economic issues or price rise or joblessness or inflation or any of those things. I think we've constantly talked about economic injustice, whether it's jobs, whether it is price rise, whether it is giving away public sector resources, whether it is monopolies in businesses. You say it is not in the national narrative. Who sets the national narrative? Who's responsible for making it a national narrative? It's the media. I don't think any of us need to know who controls the media in this country, and whether it's only a matter of debate whether 90% is controlled or 95% or 99%. That's, maybe we can have a debate over that. But the fact that it is 90% or more control is well known. So this is like, saying, okay, I put earphones in someone's ears and I keep playing my version of music while somebody else is trying to play another music, and then you keep saying, but the person does not hear the music. Yeah, because you've got your earphones in his ear. So that's really what's going on. Despite all this, I think we have undertaken initiatives such as the Bharat Jodo Yatra, such as the Bharat Jodo Nyaya Yatra. Every single day, the Congress party is only talking about these issues.
Subscribe to the Federal's YouTube page for more news and updates.